I'm going to call the meeting order. Flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open Public Meetings Act statement, please.
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting was forwarded to the official township newspapers, posted on the bulletin board and township website on November 3rd, 2022. This meeting is being videotaped and will be on Channel 9.
Roll call.
Mr. Doyle?
Here.
Mrs. Flame?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. Marsh?
Here.
Mayor Bruno?
Here. This time we're invite librarian Natalie Nizola. Close. For annual report.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I do have copies of my annual report. If you guys would like, I can hand them over to Barb. So mostly I just wanted to say hello. I took over for Debbie Reether last year in September. We were closed for our renovation from about mid-May to mid-September, and I came on board after we reopened. So I put together this annual report each year. I thought I'd hand it out to the committee members to see what we're doing with our taxpayer money. I'm happy to report our circulation was actually very similar to 2021, even though we were closed for so long during the summer. We have a lot of new technology that we've introduced in the library since we've reopened. We have a new self-checkout station for people that would like to use self-checkout. We also have a scan fax self-service station. If anyone wants to scan some stuff, they can email it to themselves and they can fax some things to people. We also started up a new Facebook page, so if everyone can go to our library's website, ftlnj.org, and please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We post all of our new programs that we're doing over there. And we're really excited for all the amazing community support that we have. We appreciate everyone coming in after we were closed. I know it's tough getting out sometimes. We are open on the weekends. We are open at night. We have a lot of new programs that we've introduced as well. We have a game night, we have Mahjong, we have a Keep Calm and Carry Yarn program. If anyone wants to come hang out with us, we knit some stuff. We made a butt bunny coaster last week, which is very exciting and cute. We're also doing some computer classes. If anyone is not sure how to get onto the internet, if anyone's not really comfortable getting on the computer, please come in, let us know. We'd love to have you. We have a lot of good kid programs. We have rhyme time. We have our Lego challenge at night. We have a therapy dog that comes in that you can read to. He loves listening. He's a very good listener. So you can read anything to him. That is only for kids, though. So if any adults are interested, please let me know. And that is my annual report. I just kind of wanted to come in and say hello. And I'm new in the community. And if anyone has any programs they'd like to see or any books they want to check out, let me know. Does everyone have their library card here? Show of hands. Very good. All right. Very nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I need a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 0523.
I don't have an answer.
What? No, we did. Who is? Hey,
I make a motion to open the public hearing on 0523.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to close the public hearing on ordinance 523.
Make a motion to close 0523.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I get a motion to approve ordinance 0523.
Motion to approve 0523.
Second. Barb?
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. I get a motion to open the first public portion for resolutions and ordinances below.
Make a motion to open the first public portion for resolutions and ordinances below.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, Nancy Kennedy, 711 St. George Street. I think, like many people in the room, I'm very excited to see one of the items on the agenda is regarding the redevelopment zone, because so many people have shown such strong feeling about it. And I see that the way the resolution is worded is that the committee has the option of rejecting the recommendation of the planning board. I just wanted to take 1 minute and thank the member of the Township Committee who was brave enough and transparent enough from the very beginning to show her concern about the redevelopment zone. And Mike and John, that doesn't really directly apply to you because you weren't on the committee the first time that this became an issue. But Committeewoman, Deputy Mayor Flame, I just wanted as a resident to take a minute and say thank you. I think it's extremely unfortunate that in you raising concerns about the redevelopment zone that were shared by many, you were then not reappointed to the planning board. I think it's an even greater shame that apparently there is going to be a GOP event announcing the candidates for Township Committee, and you're not one of them, that you weren't selected. So,
Nancy, please don't make this political. I mean, about the meeting, you can say what you need.
I'm going to say what I need, Jake, and you can interrupt as much as you like, and you can call it political if you'd like.
Okay.
But this is the public portion. I have the right to say what I want.
On the ordinances below. The
Yes.
resolutions below.
Regarding the redevelopment zone,
Had nothing to do with her.
it had nothing to do with Heather standing up against it. Because she's not a candidate, because she opposed it. That's my opinion, my right to say it. And again,
I disagree.
well, and you certainly have the right to do that, Jake. But again, Committeewoman Flame, Deputy Mayor, I apologize. I do. I thank you for your integrity and for your transparency. And I hope all the voters, whatever you choose to do in the future, will remember that you stood up for the residents of Franklin Township. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Chris Sayers, 184 Malaga Lake Boulevard. I wrote remarks tonight because I tend to get a little heated when I don't have written remarks, so I'm just going to try and stick with them. I'd like to start off by thanking the committee for listening to the community over these past few months. This was a fight that I don't think anyone wanted to have, but in the end was a fight worth having. Our township is worth fighting for. I think that each of you share that conviction or you wouldn't be on there. I cannot speak for others, and I wouldn't try to, but my demands have always been few. All I ask is that my family and my neighbors' families be given the same opportunities that generations of past Franklin Township residents have always enjoyed. I don't ask for extra services or expensive new spending programs, but only that my children can grow up in a healthy and safe neighborhood, free from traffic, pollution, noise, and overdevelopment. For this reason, I ask that you vote in favor of tonight's resolution and reject the planning board's recommendation for a redevelopment zone in Malaga. You have been elected to represent us. Your decisions are consequential to all 16,380 people who call Franklin Township home. Over the past few months, I've gotten to know quite a few of these residents, and they are a diverse group, diverse politically, economically, across all different spectrums. But on the whole, they are smart, they're generous, they're honest, and they're outspoken in their desire to preserve our quality of life. And I am fortunate to have met them. I am richer for doing so, and I thank them for their help and their passion. Regardless of the vote today, I ask the committee to try to work with these people who love our town so much. There is no reason for anyone, any of us, people of goodwill who want to do what's right for our town, to be enemies and to fight each other. In the upcoming master plan review this year, I ask of you to use them, their drive, and their combined knowledge to chart a new course that will set us up for a future success. I know, perhaps more than most, that they would be more than happy and willing to help in whatever way possible. And with that help, I think that you can save our open and green spaces and attract new business to the community in already developed areas that actually need redevelopment. Work together, compromise, and if you must disagree, disagree as friends with mutual respect for each other. The process may be messy, yes, but I believe it will be much less chaotic than the past few months have been, and that in the end it will lead to lasting policies that will ensure that something like this past situation can never happen again. So let us learn from our mistakes. I've made a few. Let us all do better to lower the temperature and elevate the discourse. And let us all work and strive to keep Franklin Township a great place to work, to run a business, to own a home, to raise a family, and to live. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Jean Mangini, 12 Leonard Cake Road, Franklinville, New Jersey. I'm not sure if this is the right time to talk about this, but it evolved from the redevelopment study. On December 7th, my husband and I downloaded a copy of the redevelopment plan. It was that time we realized our tax maps had a block 4301 lot 11 inserted where our property should have been. This mistake made our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Voskoski, and our home appear to be a faulty arrangement. We asked the planning board to look into the situation because that particular lot never existed. They did research, came back to the public, let us all know it was an error and never did exist. However, we've discovered there's a certificate of tax sale from Franklin Township in Woodbury. The document shows that on October 2nd, 1990, the Township of Franklin sold this piece of property to Victor Roon. The sale was recorded in Gloucester County on January 31st, 1991 by Joe Hoffman, County Clerk at that time. On June 23rd, 1999, the sale was filed in Superior Court. At that time, a judge deeded Block 4301, Lot 11 to Victor Roon. I had a meeting in reference to the matter with Rosemary, our former zoning officer, and Matthew Lyons, our township solicitor, on February 1st, 2023. They agreed to send a letter. Hold on. You can tell I'm nervous speaking. They agreed to send a letter to Victor Roon's lawyer, Mr. Gruccio, that was 6 weeks ago, asking them to have a deed of correction done so that we once again have clear title to our property, Block 4301, Lot 1, and Block 4301, Lot 2. To date, I haven't heard anything. We're asking for help from the Township Committee to resolve this legal issue. Because of this filing, us and our neighbors currently have clear title to our property through no fault of our own. I have copies of all these documents I talked about to give to you so you can refer to them, and I appreciate any assistance you can give us. Excuse me, I can't hear you.
Can you leave us some copies? We'll definitely follow up on this.
Yeah, because, well, the difficulty is that the township sold the property, but Victor Roon never had a piece of property. So I don't see how I'm going to get Mr. Roan's lawyer
No, I agree with
to
you.
legally do this.
I agree with you on that, and I have conferred with the county assessor. We'll get it straightened out. I wasn't aware of the 1990 transfer. That'll actually make my job easier. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fry's Mill Road. And I'd like to speak tonight about the rejecting the recommendation of the planning board that the properties identified along Route 40 and the 55 interchange be designated, and we can read it all, but that you're going to bring it up and reject it tonight from what I understand. That's what's on the agenda. You're voting to reject that idea, Jake?
The idea is to give them a vote to reject it, correct?
Right. How many votes have you taken on this project so far, Mr. Mayor?
How many votes have I taken on it?
Yeah, how many votes have you taken?
None.
Did you vote at the EDC meeting?
EDC. This year's EDC?
No, the May of 22 EDC. Did you voice support for that project at that EDC meeting?
I don't remember.
Well, lucky for you, I have a tape of that meeting. You did, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. All right.
At the planning board meeting, did you support it twice?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so 3 times you voted for it.
3 times.
Right. And now tonight, you've decided to change your mind and vote against it.
You don't know that until the vote's taken.
Oh, you might not have changed your mind. You might still vote not to do it.
Absolutely.
You're right. Well, you put it on the agenda and you're the mayor, and through the clerk, you control the agenda. So if it's on there,
But there's 4 other people that maybe want to wish their opinion. Right?
you're right. There might be some that would like to keep it. I'd just like to ask Mr. Mayor, how, when that original discussion was held in that May meeting of the EDC, it was to discuss the Fazland property, is that correct?
Correct.
However, at some point, we had the paradigm shift, and it moved from the Faz property to the Roan property. Who asked CME to investigate the Roan property in addition to the Fazio property?
I did.
You asked them to do it. Was there any particular reason why you did, Mr. Mayor?
Because I thought it could be redeveloped.
And at that time, you thought that Mr. Roan owned it until you did I know you didn't do a title search, but you had Mr. Finley and Mr. Lyons investigate the property, and
I think after it was brought to our attention that we possibly don't own that property, they looked into it at that
you
point.
possibly don't own it. You mean you might really own it, you possibly might not own it?
I mean, they came forward and said, you're basically.
Well, they said it quit
You're selling
claim.
my client's land.
Right. Who said that?
I believe it was Gruccio.
Gruccio and Pepper said you were selling the land. They just discovered that after 24 years that Mr. Roan owned that property?
I think they discovered it when they found out it was for sale. right?
Well, they discovered it when they found out it was for sale.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, after that long pause, that's correct.
Good. So if we don't own it, then Mr. Roan owns it. If we owned it, we could have developed the property ourselves.
I don't know how much property we're talking.
Yeah, that's the thing, we're
within that.
talking, when you say.
Part of that development zone.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
small portion of the whole, but the
Right.
thing is there were properties that we mistakenly for decades.
Well, you say mistakenly. I don't think there's been a title search, which is why you used a quit claim. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, but there was a quit claim. But now we believe that Mr. Roan owns the property. Does Mr. Roan stand to profit from that, do you think, Mr. Bruno?
Stand to profit from
From owning a piece of property?
A lot of people could.
Right, a lot, and I think that's an excellent point. I think a lot of people
I think
could.
the hard question's actually swampland, but.
Right. Part of it is, but I think you're absolutely right. I think it's one of the truest things you've ever said, that a lot of people could profit. Because if
they
we,
own the property.
right, they'd own the property.
But I believe there's other individuals.
There are other
Some of the
individuals, and
property.
some of them have come in and met with Mr. Lyons and come into town hall and met with Mr. Finley, some other adjoining property owners. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay, but let me ask this question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roan suddenly has a piece of property that might or might not have been his, that suddenly might or might not be in a redevelopment zone, that suddenly might or might not be changed in a zoning under a master plan. Mr. Roan stands to make a great profit, it would sound like to me. Would you agree with that, Mr. Bruno?
I guess.
Let me ask this question then, Mr. Bruno.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roan didn't conduct the negotiations himself, other people did. I wonder if somebody bought an option on that property, Mr. Bruno. What do you think?
Yeah.
You don't think anybody has
I
one?
take your time.
I think somebody has an option on it, Jake.
Well, listen, you can bring that to us.
Oh, I will, Jake, I
I'm sure you
will.
will.
And I hope you're not him.
Listen, listen, I'll be more than happy to open up my checkbook.
I'll bet you will.
Did you want to do the same?
Yeah, anytime. Anytime, Jake.
All right. I'm a land baron.
Good evening. Barbara Halpern, Harding Highway. Sorry I couldn't make the last meeting. I did see it on tape. It was quite
Oh, you didn't miss
interesting.
much.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there actually. But I'm also encouraged that the voices of the citizens have been heard. And I'm hoping that people realize what I've found going far neighborhoods, close neighborhoods, as many places in town as I had the ability to go to try and share with people what's going on in the town and talk to some of them if they were outside while I was there. And everyone that I spoke to and the person that I went around with spoke to had the same opinion of our town. They don't want to see our town become like all the other towns in Gloucester County and all the other towns in North Jersey. They really don't want industrial warehouses. They don't want the traffic, the noise, all of it. We love what we have. We love our rural town. And I know at first it seemed like we were just a small group, but the reality is if you go everywhere, even to areas that aren't affected, people feel the same way. They like their ease of being able to get around town, to get to their jobs and their hospitals and doctors and everything else and grocery stores. They really don't want to see what's happened to the rest of the areas. And the reality is, and I shared some information with Mr. Keene, that it's been studied, and towns that have more commercial development don't have lower taxes than towns that have less. You know, it's a complete myth that all these commercial properties are going to lower your taxes. The only reason Logan Township may have lower taxes, or Paulsboro, or even Newfield, which learned from the Shield Alloy disaster, and now the town is a ghost town, is that they had polluting industries, or they were all industries with few residences. We're a bedroom community. We have lots of residences. I've walked almost every neighborhood in these 3 months that I've been doing this. And we have everything from the smallest houses that I didn't even know were there on the other side of Iona Lake, which were surprising to me, to see houses that small and that close together with no land. And then we have the biggest McMansions I've ever seen on the other end of town. So we have everything in between. And that's a diverse community, but they all feel the same way. They all love it here because they moved here because of the way it is. And they don't want to see it change to what some people thought was a good idea. So please, when you're doing the master plan, when you're making decisions, talk to the community, think about what the community has said to you over these last 3 months, and realize that we like it the way it is, and we can find better ways to fix our tax woes. There are plenty of them. There's grants. We need more brains in town hall. We tend to hire a lot of brawn, which is lovely, but without brains in town hall to apply for grants and to do energy audits that are free through the BPU, the Bureau of Utilities at the state, and get from them the information that you need and the contractors that will come out for free and audit one building a year. And with these audits, they tell you how fast it'll pay back, and you make the changes to the buildings and you get the money back in 3 to 5 years. And after that, it's all gravy because it costs you less to run all these buildings. And I know it's been an issue with the community center, how much it costs to run it, you know, how they wanted to do all kinds of things and change all kinds of things because they wanted to make sure they could rent it out and, you know, make money to get the building, you know, paid for. But there's a lot of things we can do. There's other grants, lots of programs. But we need the people in town hall who can apply for those grants and who can run those grant programs and take care of the things that make government good. I believe in government. I worked in government for 25 years. And government can be really good. But it takes people in town hall who aren't overwhelmed, which I'm sure Barb is. You know, we need more staff in that building, or we need a bigger building to put more staff in, so that we can run the kind of government that people want. And people want open space. They want land preserved other than farmland. You've done a great job with farmland. Please, please, please give people places to walk in the woods. Give people places to recreate. They want it. We all want it. And I think I had a talk with Jonathan about seeing him in his neighborhood, walking his dog on the sidewalk, cars go by, and how he doesn't have what they have on Oak Avenue, a trail through the woods. And I think more neighborhoods should. And that's something that is in our current master plan and should be addressed with the new master plan, that we need those places for people. It's important. Thank you. you know my feelings on it.
Good evening, Leah Vassallo, 560 Delsey Drive. I'm glad that it appears that you're making a good decision tonight. Again, we won't know until you vote. And I'd like to congratulate everyone who put in the time and effort to make their opinions known, and apparently they did an effective job. But I would caution them that as much as you have won this battle, don't go home because the war is not over. As soon as a more opportune time comes up, this issue may come up again. I mean, I myself am a little bit skeptical that people who strongly recommended this just a couple months ago and didn't seem very interested in what anyone was saying just a couple weeks ago have suddenly had a change of heart and become concerned about the open space aspect. So my only word of concern is that, thank you for making the right decision. I hope you didn't make it for the wrong reasons, but I kind of suspect you did, and that after the primary, this will resurface. So just as a word of caution to everyone, don't put away your signs.
I didn't get a sign.
I got some in my car.
You get a permit for those signs? Can I get a motion to close the first public portion?
Make a motion to close.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion to approve correspondence and reports?
Make a motion to approve the correspondence and reports.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the minutes from February 28th, 2023.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the bill list?
Make a motion to approve the bill list.
Second. Barb?
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. Can I get a motion to approve the solicitor's permit for Eric Chris Services?
Motion to approve the solicitor's permit.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the farm stand permit for Freshcombe Farms?
Motion to approve the farm stand permit.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the food handling license?
Make a motion to approve the food handling license.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me. Resolution R8023, authorizing soliciting proposals for an affordable housing administrative agent?
Make a motion for R8023.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. Resolution 8123, authorizing the mayor and/or his designee to execute an employment agreement between the Township of Franklin and Jonathan Holroyd.
Make a motion for R8123.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. Resolution 8223, amending regular meetings of the Township of Franklin for the year 2023, authorizing and directing the clerk of the township to post and file a schedule of all meetings as required by the Open Public Meetings Act.
Make a motion for R8223.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lane?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. Resolution 8323, rejecting a recommendation of the planning board that the properties identified as the Route 40, Route 55 interchange be designated as a non-condemnation redevelopment area in accordance with the local redevelopment and housing laws.
Make a motion for R8323.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Lane?
I just want to make a comment as to that I am still rejecting this because I don't feel like everything has been, our T's have not been crossed and our I's have not been dotted. As we hear still, we have properties that are out there. And I want it on the record that we need to get those properties fixed for our residents and then continue to look at what we can do, creatively thinking, all of us together, to reduce our taxes, yet still maintain our rural stance. So my answer is yes.
Mr. King? Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. Resolution 8423, designating the annual salary for the Class 3 school resource officers for the Township of Franklin Police Department.
Make a motion for R8423.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Matt, what was this all about? Because of the audit?
So, in the audit, the contracts with the school board is for $47,000. The actual salary of the SRO is $42,024. And then there's vehicle costs, uniform expenses, and some other taxes that the SROs don't have to pay, that the school pays for them. So we didn't designate the actual salary for the SRO, which is needed in the audit, so the auditors asked us to do a resolution saying that that's the exact amount they're being paid.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Barb. 8523 resolution authorizing tax collector and chief financial officer to refund overpayment of taxes.
Make a motion for R 8523.
Second.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Marsh?
Yes.
Mayor Bruno?
Yes. And it wasn't me who got the overpayment. Can I get a motion to open the second public portion for any comments?
I'd like to make a motion for the second public portion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Joke.
No, go ahead, Mrs. Jordan.
Thank you. It'll take me a minute. Thank you. I'm very, very grateful about the vote on that you just made about the zoning. And I hope that since you have heard all of our opinions about wanting to keep it a rural community, that you will halt any more decisions and first allow the master plan to go through and follow the master plan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, anytime, Mrs. Jordan.
Harry Kennedy, 1578 Fries Mill Road. Let me just start by saying, I actually do like Mayor Bruno. I like him a lot. I get a kick out of him. He's a fun guy. He's a great wrestler, football player, coach. And I don't believe he's involved in buying that option on that piece of property. I certainly hope that no one up there is involved in it. How would I know? But I'm sure we will find out, because Mr. Rohn, although he didn't use his right address and didn't necessarily negotiate personally with the people that negotiated, he's really a pretty sharp guy for 84 years old. He has some great stories to tell. And I really love the one about the option. That should be fun as we go on. But last week when we were here, Mr. Mayor, we talked about Agile. I don't know if you remember it. Probably most of you remember it as Agile, Mobile, and Hostile. But we talked about it. And when you get a chance, those of you in the audience, watch the end of last week's meeting when we discussed Agile and the shocked look on the face of the township committeeman. Agile? What's Agile? Nobody knew a thing about it. But when we take a look at Agile, we see that they visited several sites in Franklin Township and that their tour guide was one of the people that sits on the township committee. He knew nothing about Agile. It's a cold storage company. It only needs a small footprint. Doesn't need a gigantic footprint like a big warehouse. It could fit in a site like Roan. What a shock. And one of the sites that was shown was Roan. In fact, it was moved from the Barrett site on Fries Mill Road, a lot of farms nearby with a lot of capital equipment in those farms. And it was, I know, it was moved to take a look at other spots. Because one of the committeemen, again, one that owns a lot of property in Franklin Township, one that has a lot of farm, one that raises cattle on some people's property, one that drives snow plows that some people drive, one that has a lot of opportunities to do a lot of things, took people on a tour. And they went to all these different sites: Fries Mill Road, Delsey Drive, Swedesboro Road, Willow Grove Road, Harding Highway, borders the Fazland property, Coles Mill Road, also fronting Tuckahoe Road and Dutch Mill Road. Now remember last week, watch that film. It is better, it is a better ending than anything you saw at the Academy Awards with Jimmy Kimmel. Watch those faces. Agile? Ugh, I never heard of Agile. What the hell is Agile? Yeah, Okay.
Letters once a week from you.
I know you do. You're very busy.
Sold them.
I know you haven't.
You had zoned for affordable housing.
I know you tried to buy it, as a matter of fact.
If I tried to buy it, I don't.
Yeah, you tried to buy it and I took 35,000 less. But let's get back to you, Mr. Doyle. I think the important thing to remember is this.
Something's gonna be true. Just keep trying.
I will. I
know it's
will.
hard not getting the paycheck from the town first time in 20 years.
It is hard. The nice thing is it's not as much as your tax abatement for the property you already built, Mr. Doyle. Oh, you do. You're a wonderful human being. You take more hunting trips in a year than I've taken in a lifetime. I'm proud of you. You're a Horatio Alger story. But the problem is, Mr. Doyle, you're not honest. You're not honest, Mr. Doyle. That's right. I think exploiting people.
20 years you've been playing this. You look like a fool.
Oh, Tim, you're the one that took the people to the properties.
I never took anybody anywhere. They
No.
sent me a letter to buy my property like I get once a week, and I said no.
You said no. You're a real good guy. But again, Tim,
I don't see a freezer building there.
I don't see CDL licensed drivers driving your snowplows either, Tim.
Hey, Harry, get this notice shit.
It did last year, though, Tim. It did last year, Tim.
Next week, come up with something new.
Tim, it did last year, my friend. You're a great man. But here's the point,
It's really
Tim.
easy fighting a fight and only one person to throw punches.
Well, here's the problem, Tim. You still get to call the shots on the master plan. And you know, all these nice people that were here all this time that were here to shed light on the problem. They stood up for all those many weeks. People like Joe Arsenal, the Durs, people like Barbara Halpern, the Petroviches, the Marshalls, the Manginis. You ignored them. And I'd like to quote Ronald Reagan, Tim, because it applies to you. I am. The facts are, if you can't see the light, then if you can't let them feel the light, let them feel the heat. Thank you, Tim. Goodbye, Timmy.
Mr. Doyle, I don't know if you're dumb or cocky. I really can't tell. But you are the person who has avoided paying taxes more than anyone this township has ever known. First, you got a tax abatement for a building that you claimed was no, I shouldn't say that. First, you avoided going through zoning or planning by claiming that your new construction was for your farm. Then you turned around and got a tax abatement after it was built. So let's not criticize someone who, as far as I know, has never taken a paycheck from Franklin Township. When he served as administrator, he volunteered for that position. He did not take a paycheck. So you can throw as many crazy punches as you want. I know you're under pressure. You're wearing a shirt today, so that's good. You know, I get it. Time to shape up. But your attacks are what's out of control. Why would you criticize someone for asking questions when obviously you did what can only be described as very shady stuff related to this redevelopment zone? You can vote against it now. Now, let me finish. No, this is a township. Stop. This is my opportunity to speak. This corruption is a township matter. Corruption is a township matter, and I have a right to speak about it because I've seen some of it firsthand. You forget that I was up there too. Now, what I'm saying, I can't talk while you're talking. So I'm going to go on with what I'm saying. That was a ridiculous attack on a resident for, again, rightfully criticizing. When I stood up there, I was criticized too. It goes with the territory. Don't like it? Don't do things that lend themselves to that type of criticism. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know, it was John Kerry who had the infamous quote, "I actually voted for it before I voted against it." You've done the same thing. And you haven't given a reason why you changed your mind, except that you feel pressure with the upcoming primary, which is fine. But as soon as that primary is over, you don't feel pressure anymore. No, he didn't say anything. That's my point. He had an opportunity to speak. Well, that's what happens when you don't explain why you're for something, adamantly for something, and then a short time later, you're against it. I can only assume that this will come back after the primary. And I think that's a fair assumption. But at any rate, I just want to clear the air that Harry Kennedy, as far as I know, never took a paycheck from Franklin Township, and it certainly hasn't been in the last 10 years at all. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Nancy Kennedy, 711 St. George Street. Mr. Doyle, I don't know what you're talking about either. What paycheck did Harry Kennedy take?
I don't know, I guess no Kennedys ever got paid.
That's not what you said. You said Harry Kennedy, you took a paycheck for 20 years. What paycheck did Harry Kennedy take?
Associates.
You didn't say that. You said Harry Kennedy, you took a paycheck. So do you agree then that, that your statement was wrong?
Mayor, the comments should be directed to the chair. This is a direct.
Jake, do you agree that the statement that Mr. Doyle made was wrong? Do you agree that Harry?
Honestly, Nancy, I agree with a lot of stuff that gets said here is wrong. And
So
to be honest with you, people are just getting sick and tired of it.
sure. So Harry Kennedy didn't take a paycheck for the last 20 years, correct?
I don't know that to be true or false. If he says he didn't, I believe he didn't.
Okay. Do you know that Harry Kennedy served as a
I'm
mayor?
not sure that's what Mr. Doyle actually said.
Well, you can watch the tape later. Do you?
See, I live it. I don't need to watch it again.
You're a lucky man. You're a lucky man, Jake. Did you know that Harry Kennedy was the mayor of Franklin Township for a long time?
So I've heard that once or twice, I believe.
Did you know that he was a freeholder?
I heard that once or twice as well.
Okay. Did you know that when he was mayor, he was also the subject of attack a lot of times?
Does it make it right today? Was Mr. Kennedy upset when he was attacked?
No, Jake.
He wasn't?
Mr. Kennedy conducted.
We're a different kind of people now.
You are, Jake. You are. That was actually my point. If I could be allowed to speak, because it's my time. So, Jake, this is actually great. Let me explain the difference between the kind of people that you and Mr. Doyle are and the kind of person that Mr. Kennedy is. Mr. Kennedy is the kind of person who, when he sat up there, took criticism, listened to it, and responded appropriately. Mr. Kennedy never lost his cool. Mr. Kennedy never muttered things under his breath. Mr. Kennedy never said things that weren't true or threw punches, because he's a big man, Tim. What Mr. Kennedy did was serve every resident to the very best of his ability. He didn't take people on a tour and try to profit from anything. He was the kind of guy who served the community, who coached a heck of a lot of kids in Little League, who worked on the school board, who worked with administrators, who did every single thing he could to help people. And as Ms. Vasallo very aptly stated, he never took a paycheck for it because he actually cares about the community. He's the type of brains that Barbara Halpern was referencing. He knew what he was doing, Jake. He didn't ask Matt Lyons questions every 5 minutes. He didn't hide behind his administrator. He knew what was going on. He didn't stroll into town hall and say, Daddy's home. He didn't sit at a meeting and say, what are all the people in trailers going to do if we put the warehouse there? And then his cohort didn't say, yeah, where will they hide their cats? Ha ha ha! The owner on Oak Road, who's so fat that we could pop him with a pin, what will they do? He never did things like that. Maybe those comments resonate with two of you sitting up there, because as I said, we have a tape of you saying that. Mr. Kennedy knew how to treat people with respect, and he still does. And by the way, it wasn't just Mr. Kennedy. It's not like he's some icon who did it all alone. This room is packed with people who have lived in this town their whole lives, who have raised their families in this town, who show people respect, who are courteous. They don't always agree. A lot of times they don't agree. But you know what? They're good people. And the fact that when you're questioned for the acts that you take as elected officials causes you to react like a 4-year-old boy having a tantrum says so much more about your character than it does the people that you're attacking. So again, thank you all for making the right decision tonight. For now, I believe that many of you will stand by that vote, and I believe that 2 of you who voted differently previously may in fact decide you really don't care about those people living in their trailers with all their cats and those big fat lowlifes on Oak Road, and may change your opinion going forward. And I'm going to conclude, because I've still got, gosh darn it, 50 seconds left, with a little anecdote. When Harry Kennedy was up there and he was attacked once, it was about the bars. He wanted to close the bars. They were open in Franklin till 4. Some people were for closing them. Some people were against it. He had very strong feelings about it, but again, he acted politely. He didn't act like a 14-year-old with an attitude problem. And at the end of the day, you know what he did? He put it on a ballot because he respected the residents of Franklin Township. please, whether you agree with people or not, whether you like people or not, whether you're really intimidated by the fact that they figured out what you're all about, show people respect when you're sitting in those seats and take your little playground fights somewhere else. Thank you.
First, I just want to thank you guys for, listening to the township and, voting this down. But I just want to ask, Sarah Patrick Donnie, 109 Peachtree Drive. I would like to hear from each committee member individually, but I'm just curious why you guys changed your minds and why you did decide to, reject the recommendation from the planning board for the redevelopment zone.
Again, it's a public comment session. It's up to the chair if you're going to direct that to each committee member individually.
Okay.
I never changed my mind. I made up my mind.
Sure.
I did research. I don't know how many pamphlets were handed out. Mr. Sayers, you know how many pamphlets were mailed out?
Barbara might even know more than I.
Over 1,000?
Yeah, much over 1,000.
Couple thousand.
Several thousand.
Okay. So a couple thousand. We have 16,380 residents, I believe Mr. Sayers said tonight.
Yep.
And that pamphlet had a lot of information on it. That was, some of it was true, some of it was false. Because I went and I did research. I went and knocked on doors with the biggest warehouse in the township. 800,000 square foot of warehouses on Dutch Mill Road. I asked them, did your summer temperature go up hotter than my house? They said no. What about the traffic? They didn't like the traffic, so we agreed on the traffic. Traffic used to be on Dutch Mill Road all the time. So this was a study done. This was no plan that was done. I looked into it. There was no plan. There was no mega warehouse like the pamphlet said. There was no mega warehouse plan. I know that for a fact. There's nothing, there's no application, there's nothing on file. So that was a lie. There's no mega warehouse. And when I look into it and we did a study, then I realized, you know what, this might not be for Franklin Township. It might not be, it might be. I received 16 emails and 4 phone calls against it. I can't count how many phone calls I received for it. Please don't block this like you did Fazio. An overwhelming response I got because of that. But I still voted no because all the questions are answered. That's why I did it. And I don't think after the primary I'm going to change my mind either. I do research, and that's why I made an informed decision so I could vote no or yes, whatever we did. We voted no against it, but we voted yes for the resolution. Mm-hmm. So I never changed my mind. I made an informed decision.
Yeah, when I first got here, it seemed to be it just blew up all of a sudden. And I took a step back, and I'm a process and procedures person. It's just how I operate. So I looked at the resolutions, and I also looked at the statutes, what a redevelopment plan is, what does it say. I did the research by looking at the CME plan. I looked at the Pinelands Commission and what they said. I talked with my environmental commission, and I talked with members of the community. And being a process and procedures person, this was something that is very, that has a lot of conflict to it, and I thought that it would be better to not force it through or push it through on a township committee level. And I thought it would be better to just vote this down and then maybe move it on to a different sort of process, or just leave it as a no altogether forever. So that's how I made up my mind.
I was for the study. I still think the study was a good idea. Through the study, we found the problem with the Mangini's house. God forbid something happened, or they wanted to retire and sell, and then they had to deal with that issue alone, so I think that was worth it. We captured those back taxes, we're dealing with property lines. So I think the study, I would do the study again. I think the study was good. The study got everybody here involved. As the process went on, I never thought that redoing approvals on the FAS land made sense, because it was already approved for something. We have a zoning board, we have a planning board. These are private properties. Somebody can make an application tomorrow on any of these properties, and nobody up here can stop it. It's a legal process.
We caught a lot of heat over the redevelopment. How do you redevelop trees? I don't know. Okay, it's the state's definition. We're going through the state's process. So we went through that process. People came out, and the process worked. I think that these people, this is private property. People have a right to use it. I think probably in our lives something will be built there, but it will be less controversial if it goes through the actual boards. People are noticed. I think the biggest problem with this is we don't have a project. If we had a project to show you guys, we could say, hey, this is what it is, and debate that. But if we don't have a project, we get stuck with the what if or what it could be. And the question is, we can control that, but I don't know what. We can't defend the project if I don't think that is.
Thank you.
Well, as I previously stated, I think everything needs to be clearly defined, and I don't believe that it has been. I also had many conversations with many of our township committee members that I sit up here with. And the one that resonates the most is a conversation that Jake and I had about what is the right thing to do. And I really truly believe that the right thing is to put it up to a vote for everyone. Put it up for a vote for everyone to figure out together. If the vote went and everybody said, yes, let's do it, you know what I would concede? I would say, okay, that's what the majority wants. I would be the minority at that time. If not, then, every vote matters. So I believe that conversation, there has to be a process where everybody is involved. I'll save that for later. But there's two ways. One, keep the master plan. That was done as a vision from our predecessors, our forefathers, obviously. But that vision we need to hold true. Although I have no legal obligation to the master plan from what the lawyers are telling me, it is a vision that I hold true to the people who sat in front of me. I've only lived here for 20 years. I'm not a lifelong resident. I have no problem telling you that. However, the people that have lived here and set that in front of me, put it there for a reason. I grew up rural. I grew up in Egg Harbor Township. Egg Harbor Township, if any of you drove through it, is not what it used to be back in the 70s, 80s when I grew up. And I would hate to see that come here. So as Barbara Halpern quoted me as saying, I grew up rural, I like rural, I want to be rural. I also believe we need to make it affordable for everyone. So we need to keep our creative process, and that's what this is. It's a creative process. With creative process, you need to fail in order to succeed. Together as a community, I believe we will succeed. But we have to continue that creative thinking. We have to be innovative. I challenge all of you, put it back on you. Send a letter of interest to be on that master plan. It can't hurt. Don't give up. Stand for what you believe in. The people will listen. But that's where we're at. Jake?
Thank you, Anna. Why I changed my mind, I voted for it in the planning board because I wanted to acknowledge the planning board's work. When I voted, I think they, but when it came in front of the committee, we listened. Like, you guys were out here every meeting, every time. You were relentless. And like Tim said, like Heather said, we're glad we got people involved. Let's just keep them involved. But, the downside is what some people have said. The owner of the property could be in here tomorrow wanting to go in front of the zoning board. There's nothing we can do to stop that. Everyone mentioned the master plan. We will redo the master plan this year. It's up. Understanding that, we're going to do our due diligence, put some people on there that understand environmental issues and stuff like that, and we'll see where that goes. But it doesn't negate the fact that, like Mike said, I didn't totally agree with some of the stuff that was said, but it was said and people believed it, and you know what? Now it's time to move on. So.
All right, thank you all.
I've already spoken to you.
Talk enough. Scott Swigert, 3592 Main Road. I just wondered if you could give a brief overview of this master plan process. I don't think a lot of us understand what the steps are, what's going to happen, and what we're really looking to do.
Matt?
Mayor, that would be, it would be prepared by the planning board. They would then, which would be a lengthy process, as been talked about with a lot of input. Once prepared, there'll be a public hearing for adoption, and there will be the statutorily required publications and notices that have to go out relative to that. So it'll be a multi-step process involving input and taking place at the planning board level.
Okay, maybe my main interest is this, we talk so much about zoning, is this possibility that some areas will be rezoned? For example, when they wanted to put the sand pit in, that was rural residential. Is that like a possibility for a place of land like that to be rezoned for
It's
whatever?
a comprehensive overview. It involves interaction with the county plan, with the state plan, and as everybody's been made aware, obviously land use has changed a lot in the last 10 years, certainly in the last 20 years. Uses we didn't even envision 20 years ago are now commonplace and things like that. So it's an overall comprehensive review of all of that. And so I can't begin to speculate as to what the planning board is going to conclude. It is a comprehensive overview of the entire plan.
Okay, so things that, for example, are rural residential now could be rezoned under the master plan?
I'm not.
It's a possibility. I'm not saying I'll do it.
It's a long, involved process, and I don't want to speak to specific decisions that the board may consider or make. And, I'm not the attorney to that board, but again, in a broad sense, it's a complete overview, a complete comprehensive review of the existing master plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Chris Sayers, 184 Malaga Lake Boulevard. I don't know why you changed, some of you changed your mind or how you made up your mind, but I appreciate that you did. And I thank you for the integrity to do that. It's not easy to say that you're wrong. In this whole situation, I've had to admit I was wrong with certain things that I've done in this whole fight to try and stop the redevelopment zone. And I know it's not always easy. It takes a hit to your pride to admit, when to stop at your tracks and to maybe say that you learned something. So I appreciate that. And I think I've been one of the most put upon people here throughout this whole fight. So if I can do it, I would hope most people can, and appreciate that everybody changed their mind. Mr. Marks, I just wanted to comment real quick. I wouldn't let it go saying that we lied. Look, the Bible says we see through a glass darkly. We only have as much information as provided to us through your transparency. The redevelopment zone came about through a proposal of a mega warehouse that was to be built on the Fosland site. In that proposal, they mentioned the need for the extension of the sewer system. In the 2022 Fair Share Housing Settlement, the Township Committee agreed to facilitate bringing in sewer systems into the township. So we certainly didn't lie in any of these contentions. We just made known to the community that these were possibilities, these were out there, and there were genuine connections to be made between this redevelopment zone and future warehousing, future sites. So I just wanted to say we didn't intentionally mislead people. We certainly didn't lie to people. Because again, integrity has always been one of my sticking points throughout this entire process, is to be honest, transparent. And so I just wanted to clarify that. But again, I don't condemn you for changing your mind. I appreciate it. And I thank you for that. And I think the community thanks you for that you actually listened to the residents and you actually represented them. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hello, Barbara Halpern, Harding Highway again. Thank you. Thank you for reconsidering this. It's very appreciated that you don't rush into anything. And I wanted to answer what Scott said. Yes, your zoning can be changed under the master plan, and you wouldn't even know unless you come and participate and find out what's going on. My zoning was changed under the 2004 master plan from residential to highway commercial. And that is one of the reasons I do what I do. I let people know what's going on, whether your zoning's going to be changed, whether your lives are going to be impacted by some industrial situation or redevelopment zone or whatever. But let me not go any further on that and just say the master plan update. I'm glad that you're asking for letters of interest. I spoke to Suzanne McCarthy. She was on the 2004 master plan committee. She will sit for this one. Her background is unparalleled. I wasn't here last time we met, and I was going to say exactly what Suzanne said at the last Township Committee meeting, only she's a lot better at it than I am. So I'm glad she said it and I couldn't be here. What I do want to say is that I wouldn't mind also sitting on the master plan as a second environmental person and as someone who knows almost everything in our land use code and almost everything in the zoning codes. So I think I'm uniquely qualified, and I've been involved in many, many land use applications, and my background is in plan review, soils, and site evaluation. So I hope you'll have open public meetings. You don't have to have them as private. You can have them all, every single meeting, as a public meeting where the public can sit quietly and listen to what the planner has to say and the questions that come from the members on that master plan committee board. And I think it would help. It would help provide some openness and some trust that we need to build as a community. And I personally want to see that trust in the community, and I think that you're all open to listening. And I'm glad to see that. And I also wanted to say, I understand, Mr. Marsh, that you looked at RLS, but there are a couple problems with looking at RLS. It wasn't a forest before. It was a farm field. It's a very large site, and only a small portion of it is used for the buildings. So as far as making it hotter in that area, it would have much less impact than removing a forest. When I visited the mine site, which is on Main Road and Tuckahoe Road, when I went by a woman who lives there, Linda Turner's house, it was a hot summer night. I stopped by that evening to help her with a home repair because she didn't know how to do it. And she was going to have a party for her son that night, so I stopped by and helped her wire something. She had to replace a light on the outside of her house so she would have light for that evening. And when I got home, I realized how much cooler it was where she lives than where I live. And that is because I don't have a big forest near me, and she does. When you take away a large forested area of many acres, it does have a big impact on temperatures. And asphalt makes it even worse. And roof colors matter. And I don't know what color the roofs are at RLS, but again, most of RLS's neighbors are related to RLS. There isn't a lot of neighborhoods there. So it actually is a much better site for what is there than any other site I can think of in the entire town. So it's sort of comparing apples to oranges. It really doesn't work when you try to take that research and transplant it to a wooded site or transplant it to the site of this redevelopment zone, including the Fazio site, because there are too many differences and you just can't relate them to each other. Also, the soils, I believe, on that farm aren't wetland soils. There isn't as much environmental sensitivity on Dutch Mill Road in that area. I don't think there's any wetlands there. I've walked the area many times since I can walk from my home there. So it is a completely different site, and I appreciate that you did that work, Mr. Marsh. I'm very appreciative of all the input that you put into this whole thing, and all of you, what you've put into this. I'm appreciative of that, and I think the community is as well. And I hope that you'll be more open to community input in the future, because you have a lot of people here that know a lot of things that will help you with decisions in the future. Thank you all.
I get a motion to close the second public portion.
I got some.
It's Taco Tuesday, Jason.
I know, I'll be quick. Good evening, Jason Brandt, 688 Rosemont Avenue. All of you guys know, but the public might not know, that I serve as the president of the Franklin Township School Board. And I just wanted to thank the mayor and committee for helping me out with some advertisement of some property that we're disposing of, the Lake Road School. I appreciate that. Anytime that, you know, the agencies can work together, I think that's a benefit to the taxpayers. And I also just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone that we are having an auction. It's an online auction, the 27th to the 29th of March for the Lake Road School. There's also a couple open houses scheduled. I know quite a few community members had expressed interest in touring the school before it was sold. So I just wanted to make that announcement here. And again, I appreciate you guys putting it up on the website. So thank you.
I get a motion to close the second public portion.
Motion to close the second public portion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You got anything? Yeah. Rec?
Oh, yeah, Rec Commission. April 29th, Schools Like Golf Tournament. It benefits the Community Day, which is a huge day for Franklin Township. I've been on that board for several years now, and a lot of work and effort goes into Community Day behind the scenes. And this golf tournament is a huge financial help for that day. So it's April 29th. If you can't make it, donate. It's on the Recreation website. I believe the link towards the golf tournament. And I hope everyone can, if they can't make it, at least donate towards that. It's for Albatten. It's an Albatten golf tournament. It was really big in the Community Day. And unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago. And you guys can support it.
So I met with the library board buildings, and we are, they're having the book sale coming up in April, as well as for the building and grounds. We are talking about putting in a hearing loop for the meeting rooms and the children's room, hopefully a portable one so it can go back and forth. And then speaking of doing an electric sign to help the community more aware of what is going on and taking place within the library itself. So they're the two things, and they're still going on with the grant, which was a 50-50 grant. So I know Natalie has done a lot of work with that grant and is to be commended. Mr. Deegan actually came in and presented on the sign from his church because he has done a lot of research with this electrical sign going on their church, so he was able to share that information at the meeting as well. So other than that, another library meeting tomorrow.
EDC met earlier this month. They had nothing on the agenda, so what that means is there was no new businesses that approached the EDC chairman directly, or nothing that came from the administrator that was told to go to EDC and have conversations with them. However, the EDC still held a meeting due to wanting to increase some transparency about their processes. So several members attended that meeting, or several members attended that meeting, and several members of the public attended. They had a very lengthy discussion about the EDC's purpose, what they do, some of their background, and they even discussed some questions about the redevelopment zone, and which they leveraged a lot of their prior experience of being members of the committee or being on planning and zoning to answer those questions. But there was no official EDC agenda and no official EDC action taken. The Communications Commission also met. We're still working on the website redesign, so that is an ongoing process. I believe we have a meeting coming up soon with our vendors, so I'm going to try to be on that call alongside of our chairman, Mr. Morris. So thank you for all that work they're doing with the website. Appreciate the Communications Commission.
Thanks, John. I'm working with Public Works. Winter is over, didn't really start, so we're ready to start cleaning up the parks and ball fields and fertilizing and cutting, hopefully trying to pick away at some of the projects that have been hanging around, cut down some dead trees that weren't safe, that residents complained about, so hopefully in a month or so things will be green and pretty and looking better than ever. Thanks. Matt, Little League, when's that start?
Opening day is April 15th.
When did you, Mike, when's the Easter egg hunt?
The week Saturday before, I believe it's on the April 1st.
It's not opening day?
No.
No, we won't need 10,000 eggs this year.
Mike, for the kids.
We ran out of eggs.
Do you have anything you want to say?
Sure. I'll be quick.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to touch base and just let the community know that one thing that we're doing this year in 2023, and I've worked with Mr. Finley and Mr. Marsh and Mr. Bruno on the Public Safety Committee to institute a training program once monthly where every officer gets some sort of training, whether that be in high-risk situations, self-defense, stop the bleed, and different various types of training that we're going through. This month is everybody's going to get a course in self-defense. So why is that important? Last Friday at 1 o'clock, I was sitting in a meeting over at Jambier School, and a call went over the radio that a Deptford Township police officer was shot. So this is why we do what we do. This is why we train. And I hope to God that we never have to deal with that here. And that was a very intense situation to listen to and go through. And I actually felt the need, although I didn't know this officer, I responded to Cooper Hospital and stood outside the hospital for quite some time in support of him. The tourniquet that was applied to his leg after that shooting saved his life. And that was told to us by the surgeon on scene at the hospital. So these types of training that our officers are going through are important, and God forbid that ever happen here. But I did get an update today on Officer Scheisler that he did stand up and was walking, Schisler, and was walking around. So that's a good sign, and just want our residents to know that we stand with the Deptford Township Police Department and Deptford Township in a whole. So thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
With that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.